Hi everyone, welcome to Megabytes in Tech. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos and to assist with growing this channel. In this video, I will cover the objectives for the database component of the CSEC Information Technology SBA by using a mock SBA document. This document can be found in the description below. Contact details are also below if you require one-on-one assistance with completing your SBA. Let's proceed. To create the database, open Microsoft Access. This can be opened from the Windows menu, or we can type it in the search bar as is seen here. Then I will open Microsoft Access and click Blank Database. From here, the database is named. I'll go to the document to copy the name of this database for the SBA, and then I will paste it in the bar provided. Once I have done that, I'm going to click Create, and the database is created. We're going to begin with our tables. And the first table that we're going to begin with is the members table as seen here. To create the members table, select the default table that would have been provided with the database, which in this case is table 1. And then we're going to select the design view. From here, we are required to name the table. So I will copy the name that should be affixed to this table, which is members, and I'm going to paste it here and select OK. Now we are in the table structure. From here, I will place all the field names, and the field names can be seen in the gray row. So member ID, first name, last name, contact number, address, and date joined. Let's move on by selecting the most appropriate data type for each respective field. Starting with member ID, we must firstly look at the type of data that is being entered or stored within the respective fields. In the case of member ID, we can see where the data entered is a combination of letters, numbers, and characters. In this case, the most appropriate data type to select is short text. We will then make an adjustment to the field size so as to restrict the number of characters that can be entered within this particular field. In this case, the field size will be set to 6, as member ID will always accept 6 characters. The short text data type will also be applied to first name, last name, contact number, and address. Changes will, however, be made to the field size for each respective field. For first and last name, I have changed the size to 50. For contact number, the size is changed to 12. And for address, I am leaving the field size at 255 so that it can accommodate the longest address. For date joined, the data type in this case is date/time, and we can also select a format for the date to be entered into this field. I am going to accept medium date. That will be the format for the date entered in this date joined field. I will save the changes by clicking on the diskette icon above the File tab and then select the datasheet view Here we are able to see all the field names that we would have typed listed out as is expected. I will now populate this table with the data as given in the SBA document by firstly selecting all the data within the table, and I will right-click on the selection and select copy. From here, I will select all the fields to which the data should be copied, and then I'm going to select paste. I will select the option yes, and as we can see here, the data has been successfully placed in the members table. I will now move on to the next table within the document, which is the plans table. To create this table, I will go to the Create tab within the application, and then I'm going to select Table Design. From here, I can type the field names for the table as is stated in the document: plan ID, tier, min cost, max cost, and description. I will now assign the primary key to plan ID field. From here, I will select the appropriate data type. For plan ID, it is short text, and we're expecting one character to be entered in that field. For tier, it is again short text, and for this one, I am going to leave the field size at a 10. Min cost and max cost will both be assigned currency data type, as we are expecting monetary values to be entered within these fields. And finally, we have description, which is of a short text data type, and I will leave it at the default 255 for field size. I will save the table as plans and select OK. From here, I can view the data sheet view can now be selected in order to populate the table with the data that is outlined in the document. On a normal occasion, this data would be typed out in the table. However, because I have access to it from the document, I will select the data in the table, right-click, and select the option Copy. From here, I will select all the fields within the table to which the data should be copied, and once I have selected the fields, I will select Paste from the Home tab. Now that the data is stored within the plans table, I will move on to the final table, which is meal orders. To create the table, we will go to the Create tab within Microsoft Access and then select Table Design. From here, I will type the field names as outlined within the document: order number, member ID, plan ID, order month, week, cost, and delivered. Let's assign the appropriate data type for each of these fields. For order number, we're going to make that the primary key field, and as we can see the data here, they are numbers that are incremented by 1 for each record, and for this one, the most appropriate is auto number. Moving along to member ID, we would have discussed this from the members table. It is short text, and the field size is 6. For plan ID, again, this would have been discussed from the plans table. It is short text and the field size is 1. Moving along to order month. Order month is accepting the months of the year. So this will definitely be a short text, and I'm going to leave it at a field size of 15. For a week, I'm going to assign this data type number, as it is accepting numbers within each month for the week. Moving on to cost, which is storing monetary values. The most appropriate for this is currency. And finally, for delivered, the most appropriate data type is yes/no, as it is accepting yes or no values. With this, I can now save the table with the name that would have been assigned and then select OK. From here, I can select the datasheet view in order to populate the table with data. Again, you would type the data in the document to populate your table, but as I have access to the table itself, I'm going to copy the data and paste it in the respective fields. Just to note that order number is automatically generated, so you do not enter a value for any auto number field. And for the delivered field, I will manually input the data there, as you can see here. From here, we're moving on, and it says here that we need to create 10 additional records in the members table of members joining in January of 2024. Just before I do that, I will go to the design view of each table to add a description for each field. Though this is optional, it is best practice as it gives an idea as to the type of data that will be stored in each field, should in case there's anyone else who needs to access the database. These descriptions are just one-line sentences that describes the data. For example, for member ID, I have a unique ID assigned to each member. For first name, I have member's first name, member's last name, and so on and so forth. So any description that you find that is appropriate and gives an accurate description of the data stored in each of the tables. This is repeated for each table that was created until there is a description for each and every field that would have been created within the tables. I have created the 10 additional records in the members table. As you can see, I have now stopped at member ID M0016 as it would have been populated up to M0006 prior. Next, moving on to number 2, we would have already assigned the primary key field as member ID. So that is already done. Move on to number 3. Number 3 states that we must create a duplicate of the members table and name it members backup. To do this, I will close the table that is currently open, and then I will right click on the members table and select the copy option. Once it has been copied, I will right click in a blank area right where the objects are listed and select paste. From here, table name, we can assign the name as indicated in the document, which is members backup, and then I will select OK. As we can see, the table is now listed among the tables created. Once it is opened, you will find that it has a duplicate of the data that is stored in the members table. Number 4, assign primary key to appropriate fields in plans and meal order tables. We would have already done so in creating the table. Plan ID for the plans table and order number for the meal orders table. Just before moving on to number 5, which requires of us to create relationships among the tables, I will backtrack just a little to create drop-down lists on respective fields within tables. I will close the tables that are opened and go to the meal orders table. For the plan ID, that is a perfect field to place a drop-down list on, as options are limited to B, S, and P. For order month, it's the very same. According to the document, clients are able to make meal orders in January, February, and March. For weeks, it is the very same. Input is restricted as no month will exceed 5 weeks. To create drop-down lists for these 3 fields, we go to the design view of the meal orders table, select the data type for the plan ID field, and select Lookup Wizard. From the Lookup Wizard, I'm going to select the second option to be able to type in the values for that drop-down, which in this case will be B for basic, S for standard, and P for premium. Following that, I'm just going to select Finish. I will do the same thing for order month. To select the data type from that drop-down, I will select the Lookup Wizard option. From this pop-up window, I'm going to select the second option to be able to type in the values. From here, I will type January, February, and March, so that just those values are listed in that drop-down menu. Once that is finished, I'm going to go ahead and select Finish. And I will repeat it for week. So again, select the drop-down from the data type, select Lookup Wizard. I will select the second option, and then from there, I will provide the options, which in this case will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And from here, you will notice that when you go back to the datasheet view, that drop-down menus are accessible for each of these fields. Right-click to close and select Yes to save the changes made to the table. We can now proceed to creating the relationships between the tables. To do this, go to the Database Tools tab, and from there we look at the Relationships group, and I will select Relationships. Here we are given the option to select the tables among which the relationship should be created, and that will be the members table, the plans table, and the meal orders table. So I add each of those separately and then close that window. From here, to create the relationship, we have to find common things, common fields storing common data within each table. So it is the member ID within the members table and the member ID within the meal orders table. And what I do is drag from one table to the next, and I'm given this option to create a relationship. We may enforce referential integrity, however, we were not given that instruction for this document. I will repeat the very same using the plan ID, which can also be found in the meal orders table and the plans table. So from there, I see that the relationship is being created between the two fields, and so I am going to select Create. Once this is done, we can save by clicking the diskette icon above the File tab. Next, we are to create some additional records within the meal orders table, a minimum of 10. However, we may exceed 10, but it must be between the months of January and March of 2024 that these orders would have been made. So I will go to the meal orders table and we can see the 5 records that we were given within the documents to populate. I will also demonstrate to you the members table. Now that the relationship has been created, you'll find that there's a plus sign beside each record where we are able to extend to show the relationship between the tables. The same is true for the plans table, where I can expand each plan and I can see how many records fall under that plan, or how many orders will fall under that plan. Okay, with that, I will proceed to creating the additional records within the meal orders table. Now that the additional records have been placed within the meal orders table, I will proceed to number 7 that says Pat Carr cancelled her membership with balanced bites. Delete her from the members table. So I have opened the members table and I will delete her record. She has ID M0006. So I simply select the record and I can right click and select the option that says delete. And yes, I want to proceed with the delete. Moving along to the next object, which is queries. Query number 1, we are listing first and last name of all members. To create any object, we go to the Create tab and I will select Query Design. In this case, being that we just want the first and last name of all members, it means that we just need to add the members table. Once the members table is added, I will double click on the fields that are required for this query. And in this case, that is first name, and we can see it below here, and the last name, and it will also appear below here. To view the result of this query, I can go ahead and select the datasheet view, and here I am seeing a list of the first and the last name of each member. With this, I will save the query as Query 1 membership list as stated in the document. I will just copy, click on the diskette icon above File, and paste. Moving on to query number 2. For query number 2, we will count the number of orders made under each plan tier. And we will save this as query 2. I will close query 1, go to the Create tab, and select Query Design. From here, we need 2 tables. And in this case, the 2 tables are meal orders and plans. So I will add both. Once the tables are added, I will select the fields that are needed for this query, and they are tier from the plans table and order number from the meal orders table. As I double click on each field, we will see them appear below. Next, we want to count the number of orders for each of the tiers. Whenever we want to count or sum, we click on this totals feature. Once I click on totals, an additional row will appear below with total. And here it says group by default. I'm going to leave group by for tier. However, for order number, I'm going to change that to count. And that is because I want to count the number of orders for each of the tiers. So I will select count. Once I select count to preview the result of this query, I select the datasheet view or run. And as we can see here, it says basic is 5, premium 4, and standard 10. So those are the number of orders for each tier. I'm going to go back to the design view and I'm satisfied with the result. So I will click on the diskette icon above file to save. I'll copy the name given and save this query as is. Before closing this query, I want to point out that the relationship that was created earlier between these two tables is evident once we add the tables for the query. We can see that from the line adjoining the two tables. I will right click and close this query and move on to query number 3. For query number 3, we are to list the first name, last name, and contact number for all members whose meals have not been delivered. Again, to create any object, we go to the Create tab, and since it is a query being created, I will select Query Design. For this query, the tables needed are the members table for the first name, last name, and contact number, and the meal orders table for the delivery option. I will double click to add each of those tables and select close once I am through. From here, I will add first name, last name, and contact number from the members table. And as I double click on each field name, we can see them appear in the section below. I will also add the delivered field from the meal orders table. In this case, we have a criteria because we only want to see records for those meals that have not been delivered. And so within the criteria row, I will move all the way over to the delivered field, and within that criteria row, I will type no as the criteria, meaning no would be what is selected for the delivery status of these individuals. As we can see, we have individuals where none of these checkboxes are checked to indicate that these were delivered. So we have all of these persons for which the order was not delivered. I am satisfied with the result, so I will return to the design view and I will save this query by clicking on the diskette icon above. I'll copy and paste the name as outlined in the document. That takes us to the final query for this database component, and that is query number 4. For query number 4, it should reflect an increase in the prices, that is the maximum and minimum prices outlined in the plans table. Prices are set to increase by 10%. We are to create a query with all fields in the plans table and convert the min cost and max cost fields as calculated fields to reflect the 10% increase. To do this, we create a new query. And for this, all that is required is the plans table. So I'm going to go ahead to add that and close. The document states that all fields should be added from the plans table. So I will double click on each field name. And as I double click, you will see that each field is added in the section below. Once I have done that, I will focus on the two fields outlined in the document, which is the min cost and the max cost fields. For these two fields, I am going to increase them by 10% each. To achieve this, the first thing that I'm going to do is to give the calculated field a new name. Instead of naming it min cost, I will name it new min. Once I type this, I will place a colon to indicate that this name should be affixed to this new field. To get the 10% increase, what I need to do is to multiply the value that is currently in min cost by 1.1. Because min cost is a field that already exists within the table, it must be surrounded by square brackets. Hence, I have an opening and a closed square bracket surrounding min cost, and I will multiply that by 1.1. And again, that is how we get a 10% increase. I'm adding the 10% to what was already there. For the max cost, this will be called new max, and I'm following a similar format by saying new max and a colon to separate this new name from the calculations to the right. I will surround max cost with square brackets because it is a field that already exists, and likewise I will multiply it by 1.1 to reflect a 10% increase. Once I have this, I am just expanding here so that you can see what is typed out in full. Next, I will view the results of this query. And as we can see here, the prices have increased. Originally, for basic, the minimum was 4,000, and now it's 4,400. So as you can see, for each of the tiers, the prices have increased. Now let's just look at this plans table for a comparison. As we can see in the plans table, the prices are lower, and in this query that would have been created, the prices have increased. However, in this query, the prices are not reflected using the dollar sign and the 0.00. So we're going to make some adjustments to those two fields by clicking on the property sheet. Once I select the property sheet, it will bring this window to the right, and I will select format and change the format for this to currency. I will also change the decimal places to 2 so that the currency is reflected to 2 decimal places. I will do the same for new max by clicking on the new max field, and I will change its format also to currency and the decimal places to 2. With that, I will again view the results of this query, and as we can see here, the numbers have now been formatted to reflect a currency. Now that I am satisfied with the result of this query, I can proceed to save by clicking on the diskette icon, and I will copy and paste the name as indicated in the document. And that is it for the 4 queries. That takes us to the next object, which is forms. We are to create a main form with all fields from the members table. and save the main form as balanced by its members' data. To this main form, a subform will be attached with some fields from the meal orders table. I will close these two objects that are opened by right-clicking on the name of the object and selecting the option Close All. I will then proceed to create this form by clicking on the Create tab and then selecting Form Wizard. Once Form Wizard is selected, I will ensure that the table from which the fields are needed is selected, which in this case, the members table. So I will change the table from plans to members. Once I have done that, I have the fields, which are the available fields, and according to the instructions, each of them must be placed on the form over in the selected field section. So I will click on this double arrow and it will send everything at once. Once I have done this, I will go next. And I will leave this as the default, which is a columnar view. And I will click next as well. From here, I will place the name as indicated in the document. It will be copied and pasted within this text field, and we will proceed. From there, I will select the second option, which is to modify the form's design, and this is to attach the subform to the main form. Once I've done this, I will proceed to select Finish. I am now in the design view for the form, and I will add this subform below the main form. To do this, I am going to expand the length of the form so as to make room for this subform. In order to achieve this, I will click on the line above the form footer and I will click and drag a little bit downwards to get some space. Once I have the space, I will ensure that I am in the Design tab. I look in the Controls group and select the option from there. From that drop-down arrow, this fourth to last icon, if you hover over it, you will see Subform/Subreport. That is the icon that we're looking for. So I will go ahead and select. Once I've selected the subform icon, as you can see from the cursor here, I will click in an area where I want the subform to appear, and that is below the main form. Once I click, this window appears, and here I will use an existing table. So once that is selected, I will click Next. The next thing that I will do is to select the table from which the fields will be used. In this case, it is the meal orders table, which is already selected. So I will proceed to selecting the fields. To select the fields, I double click on the respective field from this Available Fields section. In this case, it is Plan ID, Order Month, Week, Cost, and Delivered. I double click on each of those and then I go next. Next, it is basically requiring the field that is used to connect the meal orders table and the members table from the main form. We will go next because that is already selected, and then I will click Finish to use the default name that would have been selected for this subform. Now, when we look below, we will see that Another form is attached to the main form. I will click on that gold border that surrounds the perimeter of the form to drag it into the desired location. Once I've done that, I can go ahead and view the form to see what this will look like. As you can see here, the main form is above, but below I'm seeing 2 out of the 4 or 5 fields that were selected, which are plan ID and order month. Now, what I will do is extend the width of the subform so that the other fields are exposed. We can use the scroll bar below. However, for access purpose, I will extend the width to expose the other fields. To do this, I will go back to the design view and I will extend the width of the form altogether. That is by clicking on the edge of the form and dragging. And I will do the very same for the subform. That is to select the subform. We will see that it is surrounded by the gold line. I will click on that middle dot along the width and extend it. And I will also extend the width of the form itself. Once I do that, I will go back to look at the form in the form view to see if I am satisfied. I'm almost satisfied. The only thing that is not being fully displayed is delivered. So I will go back to the design view and extend it just a little further so that that delivered field can be exposed as well in the form. So I will repeat the same steps. I will extend the width of this main form. I will click on the subform. Once I see the gold lines, I will click on the middle dot to extend the width, and then also click on this line here to extend the subform. Now let us view the form again, and as you can see here, I am seeing the delivered field. With this, we are able to see the member information along with their order information. So this member 001 would have made 2 orders, one in the first week of January and the second order in the 3rd week of February. In case you're wondering what is the purpose of the form, it allows us to view data within the tables, but it also allows us to add data to the tables. So what I will do is I will scroll to the end of the table, to the very last record, and I will add information to the form just to demonstrate that it will be reflected in the respective tables. Okay, so with that, this is the last record in the members table, which is from the main form. That is 0016. I will move to a new record from this form. And of course, this ID will be M-0017. Okay, I will place the other data within the form, and then we will move over to the tables. By entering data in the form and subform, by extension, what we're doing is populating the members table as well as the meal orders table. I'm now entering data into the subform, which is from the meal orders table. Now that I have done that, I will close the form, and for explanation purposes, I will open the members table. And as you can see, the last member is the member that was just added through the form. Likewise, the last order will be from the last member that was entered in the form, as you can see here. So the form allows us to enter data into the tables. However, the form gives us a graphic interface that the table does not give. So with that, we're moving on to the very final object, which is the report. To create a report, we go to the Create tab, and then in this case, Report Wizard. Once I go to Report Wizard, I will select the table as outlined in the report. It says we need the first name, last name. This information can be found in the members table, so I select the members table and double click on the fields so that they move over to selected fields. Next, we want the plan ID. This can be found in the meal orders table, so I change the table to meal orders and select the necessary fields, which are plan ID, order month, week, and cost. Once I've done that, I will click next, and here we are to group the report by the order month. Order month can be found within the meal orders table. So I want to view the data by the meal orders table, so I will double click on that, and then I will go next. Next, I want to select specifically the order month. So I will go ahead and double click on order month so that the report is grouped by the order month, and I will move next. According to the document, the report should be sorted by week in ascending order. So within this drop down, I will select week, and it is by default in ascending order, so I will leave that as is. Next, it says include the total number of orders as well as the sum of money made for each month. So I will click on summary options. For summary options, I want the sum of the cost. So I will check that box that reflects sum of cost and select OK. I will select next from here. Next, I will leave the layout as stepped, and I like to change the orientation to landscape so that there is sufficient space for all the fields that will appear in the report. Finally, I will save this report as first quarter report. That is what will be typed within this text field here, as this is the name that will be given to the file. Once I've done that, I will select finish, and we can see the report here. It needs some adjustments for more reasons than one. However, this is what we are presented with. We should be able to identify that the report has been grouped by month. So we're seeing each month and the orders that were made within each month. And we should also see that it is ordered or sorted by week. As you can see, week 1 in each month appears first, then 2, then 3, and so on. Let us proceed to the design view. I will close the sprint preview and get to the design view of the report. Here we are able to make some adjustments to this report. The first adjustment that I will make is with the columns. If you are observant, you would have seen where we have a lot of space that is not necessarily needed. For example, for a week, where it's just numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So I decrease the width of the week. The first name, I will do the same. I hold down on Control and click the controls on the report. That is the first name heading and the first name data. Here I am decreasing the width of the first name data. I hold down on Control and select the last name heading and the data, and I will also decrease the width of the data that is under that last name column. I will again hold down on Control and select contact number, and I will use the left arrow key on the keyboard or the back arrow to move the column closer to last name. Here I will increase the width of the contact number, and then I will hold down on Control to select again the heading as well as the data for plan ID, and I will decrease the width of the data that is in that plan ID column. If you were observant, you would have noticed that the cost was not displayed on that report, and that is because we have a control there for the heading, but this little line is where the data is supposed to hold, and of course it cannot hold in that little line. So I will increase the width, and there you are able to see clearly the heading cost and the data cost. I will hold down on Control on the keyboard to select both, and I will move it closer to the last column. Let me see what this looks like in the report view. As we can see, everything is now being displayed except the cost, where we're seeing some hashtags, which simply means that the space is not sufficient for all data to be displayed. So I will extend the data under the cost column, and as you can see, we are now in full view of the data within this column. Here I will quickly make some adjustments by again rearranging. Now that we have enough space, I will move the columns more to the right just to give a greater balance to the fields in the report, or to the columns within the report. I achieve this by holding down Control on the keyboard to click on the groups. That is the group for the heading as well as the data below. And as we can see, the columns are now more evenly spaced. From here, I will make an adjustment also to the grand total that was not being displayed. And that is because there's a thin line here as we had experienced with cost. So I will expand the width of the grand total, and we are able to see the grand total reflected below on that last line. We're going to do the very same for sum. I should be seeing the sum of the cost for each month. And so I am going to go back to the design view and expand that line, which I am sure is there for sum, so that it can be displayed on the report. Okay, now we are able to see the sum of money that was made at the end of each month. With that, I will proceed again to make adjustments to the report. In this case, I will go back to the design view and I will move to the title of the report. For the title of the report, we're given some instruction that it should be balanced bites meal order report. I will copy that and paste it in this title control. Once I've pasted it there, I will hold down on Control on the keyboard and press Enter to get to the second line. For the second line, I will type the information as indicated in the document. If there were additional lines needed, I would hold down on Control and press Enter. However, I will leave it at the 2 lines as indicated, and I will expand the width of this control so that it spans the width of the report. Here it says the font style for the data in the report should be Times New Roman. what we can do is go to the Home tab and click on any one of these controls, and we can see that it is not Times New Roman. Currently, it's Calibri. I'm just clicking at random controls, and we can see that the font size is 11 and the style is Calibri. What I will do is select all controls by holding Control and then pressing A. Control A will select all controls on this form, and from here I can proceed to typing Times New Roman as the font style, and I will also change the font size to 12 as indicated in the document. Finally, we're going to make some adjustments to the title of the report, and that is to increase the font size to 16 and change its color to blue. I will also center this title across the report, and we're able to see all the adjustments that were made in the actual report. There's one thing that I overlooked that I will go back to, which is to apply a bold feature to the column headings. So all of these controls under page header, they are the column headings. I will hold down on Control on the keyboard and click each of these column headings so that each is selected. Once each is selected, I will select the bold formatting feature, and as we can see, it has been applied. I will view the report in Report View to see what this looks like. We can see that the headings are bold. However, some of them are falling off. And this means that we need to go to the design view to now make room for each. So I will click on each one individually and expand the width of the control so that all of the data that is within the particular control is exposed. And once I do this, I will go back to the report view, and I should see where all of these column headings are now being displayed in full. And that takes us to the end of the database component of this mock SBA. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video has provided clarity where needed. Stay tuned for videos on the remaining components.